ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ ਤਿਲਕ ਹੀਣੰ ਜਥਾ ਬ੍ਰਿਪਾ ਅਮਰ ਹੀਣੰ ਜਥਾ ਰਾਜਨੈ ਆਵਦ ਹੀਣੰ ਜਥਾ ਸੂਰਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਧਰਮ ਹੀਣੰ ਤਥਾ ਵੈਸਨਵੈ ਆਵਦ ਹੀਣੰ ਜਥਾ ਸੂਰਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਧਰਮ ਹੀਣੰ ਤਥਾ ਵੈਸਨਵੈ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਅਰਜਨ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਬਾਣੀ of Salok Sehaskriti. We've all just listened to the 56th slok of this bani. Let us ask Guru Arjun Dev Ji Paat Ji to bless us to go through these beautiful words, this Turki bani of Satguru Ji Sache Paatshah. Tilak heenang jatha bripa amar heenang. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paat is giving us some examples here. They're saying that tilak meaning that mark that is placed upon the forehead of a bipra meaning of a pandit, of a Brahmin. Brahmin Sangat Ji meaning out of the four castes, four main castes, and the ones that call themselves to be above the rest, the Brahmins, the learned ones, the ones that were learned of the Vedas, the Brahmins. Sangat Ji, Guru Sahib Ji saying that, can they imagine if a Brahmin not having heenang, jatha means just like, can they a Brahmin, can they heenang is without what is tilak, without that sacred mark upon his forehead. And Sangat Ji, that isn't just a sacred mark as we sometimes just translate it, because it's a lot deeper than that. And sometimes what we end up doing is we end up looking at other people from the eyes of arrogance, and sometimes we belittle other people for their practices. But actually, even though that's not our marg, that's not the marg, that's not the path that Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paat Ji has laid out for us, but the tilak for our Hindu veers, our Hindu brothers, actually for them it holds there's a deep concept behind it. They're very particular in the ingredients that are used to actually make this. So when they're gonna make this mark upon their forehead, and Sangat Ji, and it's something to do. So it's not obviously the Visha, it's not the whole aim of the Sangat, not of this Salok, but just very vaguely just to explain that sometimes we just think some of these things are empty rituals, but that's not the truth. Satguru Ji Paat Ji, yes, in Gurbani, they do say that those that are merely wearing these sacred marks upon their forehead, the tilak, and those that have got malas wrapped around their arms, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮਾਥੇ ਤਿਲਕ ਹੱਥ ਮਾਲਾ ਬਾਨਾ ਲੋਗਨ ਰਾਮ ਖਿਲੌਣਾ ਜਾਨਾ. Sadhguru Ji Paat Ji, yes, does say that people have made God into a toy, but they're talking about those that are false, that are something else from outside but are something else from inside. Just like Sadhguru Ji Paat Ji here is talking about that sacred mark that is upon the forehead of the Brahmin in this Shabad as well. But they're talking about those that actually their actions outwardly are something else, what they're showing people is something else, meaning the way they look is something else, but their actual what is inside their mind and their actions are something else. It doesn't match up. It's talking about those. So Sangat Ji, some of these practices that are carried out by other faiths, for them there is a deeper concept behind it. But Paat Ji here is saying to us, imagine a Brahmin that isn't wearing that sacred mark upon his forehead. It's just like this, the example where Guru Sahib Ji is leading to. Then they say, Kende Amar heenang jathaa Rajane. Then this is Rajane, Sangaji. Rajane means a king. And Pachi is saying, imagine a king that hasn't got the samratha, hasn't got the power. The word power isn't used in this pankti, but there's some words that we have to look deeper into and add it into brackets to make up the arth, to make the translation. So imagine if there's a king but hasn't got the samratha, hasn't got the power to actually give amar. Amar Sangaji means to give order to the people. It makes no sense. This is just like that. A king without any being able to give any order to the people that is ruling over. And then Patji go on to give further examples. Then they say Avad heenang jathaa sura. Just like, jatha means just like. Remember Sangaji, saying just like in the heenang without. Who is without something in the surah? Imagine a warrior without avad. Avad meaning translates to weapon. Just like in a warrior that is without a weapon. Sadhguru Ji Path Ji here, Nanak Guru Arjun Dev Ji Path Ji saying Dharam heenang tatha baisava. Sangaji maaf karna, sasse de pair vich nanna lagda ya, so baisanav. So baisanav Sangaji meaning that a basnav is, when we look at the where it comes from, the word comes from the Vaishnu. Vaishnu Sangatji meaning a devotee of Vishnu. But over here Sangatji, Sadhguru Ji Path Ji, they're not specifically here talking about those group of people that have devoted themselves to the deity of Vishnu. But Sadhguru Ji Path Ji here, the basnav for us here, we're going to translate to any Bhagat, any devotee, anybody that calls themselves a devotee of God. Sadhguru Ji Path Ji saying to us, Dharam heenang tatha baisanav. Just like that, how can it be that somebody that is calling themselves to be a humble devotee of God? And Sangaji, just so that we can relate to this, just because somebody is calling themselves a sect, Sadhguru Ji Path Ji is saying to us here, Dharam heenang. It's like that. Somebody that is calling themselves a sect, a Bhagat, a devotee, but they haven't got any dharam inside of them, but they haven't got any righteousness inside of them. And a better way to actually translate that and look at this here is somebody that hasn't got spiritual discipline inside of their life. What do I mean by spiritual discipline? We'll have a look at in a moment. So just like a warrior, how can they call themselves a warrior if they haven't got a weapon, don't know how to use a weapon? How can somebody call themselves a Raja Sangadji, a king, if they can't actually give out any order to anyone? How can somebody, Sadhguru Ji Pacha Ji here is giving us all these examples. How can a Brahmin call themselves a Brahmin without the tilak? Just like that, how can a Bhagat call themselves a Bhagat without Dharam? How can a devotee, how can a sect call themselves a sect without any Dharam, without discipline in their life? Sangaji, and when I first looked at this and I thought, okay, that's enough and I'll move on from that. But just as I was coming upstairs to do the katha and I sat down to switch on the computer, manavich khayal aaya, and a thought came into my mind that what is this that Sadhguru Ji Path Ji is actually saying to us here? Who is it that Path Ji is talking about? Because they've used over here, the word Vaisnava is very close to somebody being a Bhagat, somebody being a devotee. And often, Sangaji, when we look at somebody within society, when we look at somebody within our household, within our families, within our friend circle, or we go to the Gurdwara Sahib within Sangat, and who is it that we often say, Eta Bhagatiya? We say to that person often somebody that's got innocence inside of them, somebody that is dedicated, completely devoted, and will say Eta Bhagatiya. This person is a complete devotee, a complete saint. And Sangat Ji, but there's many people that are claiming that we are this, that asita Bhagat hai. You know, it's all about devotion. And that the most important thing is that we've got love inside of our heart. And that's what people will say. They say, chal fir ki hoya je assi inj nahi karde, te fir ki hoya je assi aa nahi karde. Then what does it matter if we don't do this and we don't do that? Because the most important thing is at least we've got love inside of our heart. And that's what people will claim. And Sangat Ji, often what happens is that actually people start to believe that. Even ही गा के प्यारे हो के ओहो अपने वालों झूठ नहीं बोल दे. So इंज नहीं इहदा ये नहीं मतलब कि सच्चे पातशाह जी सानू ये नहीं इत्थे कह रहे कि यह झूठा आ. They're saying, but what they are claiming ends up being false, but it doesn't mean that that person is a झूठा, doesn't mean that person is lying करके वो अपने वालों सच ही कह रहे ने. From themselves they feel that they are saying the truth, that this path is about love, and that is the absolute truth, so, Sangat Ji, that this path is about love to God. But ਉਸ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ ਧਰਮ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਆ. But to even for that love to even well up inside of us, it's very important to have that dharam inside of us. That's why when we look deeper into Satguru Ji Paatshah Ji's Bani, what will we find? We'll find that Satguru Ji say to us, bin bhai kine prem na paya. Bin bhai kine na prem paya, maaf karna. Satguru Ji Paatshah Ji will say to us, that without having that fear inside, and remember this fear is pure, that pure fear of that Vaheguru Ji is forever present. Vaheguru Ji is watching each action of mine. And so for that reason that I live my life in a discipline. Sangat Ji, pehla dharam aunda hai, and what do I mean by first that this dharam in this path, and without that dharam, without that faith, without that discipline, there is actually no love. People say bas prem di khe bas je prem andar hega ta theek ya, par asal vich pyareo eh rasta ki hai, eh name da ta prem da rasta ya. But this path is of name and prem karke asal vich name de andar hi prem hai, because that prem is there only if there is name there. And name means when we actually dedicate ourselves and live our life in discipline, and we actually take that time out and dedicating our time towards Satguru Ji Paatshah. When we look at our stages of even reaching pyar first, Satguru Ji saying bin bhai kine na prem paya. Paatshah Ji saying that there is nobody that is actually experienced that true love of Vaheguru Ji. Until they haven't had that inside discipline inside of them first. That's why Satguru Ji Paatshah Ji, Guru Ramdas Ji Paatshah Ji say to us in Lama di Bani, they say that Bani, Brahma, Ved, Dharam, Diradaho, Paap, Tajaya, Balaram, Jiyo. Sangat Ji, some people will say that the fir ki hoya jab main ek kuch khana hai, then what does it matter if I eat this? What does it matter if I eat that? What does it matter if I go here or if I go there? What does it matter the way I look? What does it matter the way I speak? And people will justify everything. They'll say, but as long as I've got love inside of my heart. But Satguru Ji Paatshah Ji is saying that there is actually you're in this delusion. There is no love until there isn't discipline, until there isn't that name first. If we look at this, Satguru Ji Paatshah Ji saying to us, Bani, Brahma, Ved, the first step towards this path of spirituality is Bani. We attach ourselves to the Guru's word. Often enough when we just say it's only about the love. And Sangat Ji, when we say it's all about the love, even I use these type of captions myself. If you look at my Facebook, that's one of the things I've got up, is it's all about the love, because that's what Satguru Ji Paatshah Ji say, this game is about love. But where is that love? The love is in our name. The love is in our discipline. That's where the love is. And that's why Sadhguru Ji Paat Ji saying to us, this is the first step. So take these steps. That Bani, Brahma, Ved, first, our love is where? Within the discipline of reading the Guru's words. That's a discipline. It's disciplining ourselves to actually sit down and connect to our Guru's Bani. Somebody could claim that I've got Prem, but Prem is with name, Sangat Ji. If you listen to Gyani Sant Singh Maskeen Ji's Kathas, if you listen carefully enough, they drop so many gems in their Kathas. They always use rhyming words like this. Like, for example, things like name and Prem. I'm not sure if they used this exact one, but they would use always rhyming things like this. But if you listen carefully enough to Sant Maskeen Ji's Katha, you'll notice, even if their Katha is an hour long, but the actual content within that Katha isn't rammed out. Meaning they haven't given too much information in that. They'll take the same thing, keep saying it over and over again. And they'll keep repeating the same verses and same sayings again and again throughout. Why? Like I've said before, so that it can absorb inside of us, because it's become a culture nowadays to accumulate knowledge. But this path isn't about accumulating knowledge. This path is about becoming and becoming drenched. That's why Maskeen Ji would do that, and it at the end of the Katha, that gal ikkoi hundi si. There would only be one thing that they would be focusing on, but at the end of it would actually sink in. And Sangat Ji, we've got to get back to that. It shouldn't be, I've watched this talk now, I've watched that talk now I've watched that, yes, clock, tick, tick. Yes, I've watched all the travelling light of Guru Nanak, the one that used to be 12 weeks, 12 Gurus done. Oh yeah, I've watched all the Vaheguru course. No, Sangat Ji, watch it, of course. That's what our job is. So we'd be out of a job if you stopped watching. But Sangat Ji, there's no rush. Don't try and get through it. Try and become it. Take the juice. Take the ras out of it. Listen to it. Focus on it. And let it sink in. Over here, Paatji saying to us, Bani, Brahma, Ved. For first, our first discipline is to connect to read our Guru's Bani, because that's where we get what from? Brahma. Brahma meaning our creator Vaheguru Ji. Brahma here isn't the Brahma, the deity Brahma. This is actually Brahma, the creator Vaheguru Ji. Ved. Sangat Ji, if you look at the Ved, Dadda's got an ankara underneath it, so it makes it singular. It's a masculine noun singular. If it didn't have the ankara underneath it, then we could have said Mara is talking about the Vedas. But this is Sangat Ji talking about the Ved meaning knowledge, divine knowledge. Vaheguru Ji's divine knowledge we get from where? We get from our Guru's Bani. Bani, Shota Bisram Othe. Small Bisram, Bani, Brahma, Veda. So that, what are we going to do? Dharam, Deraho. First step is Sangat Ji is Dharam. And that's why we can say, but yes, I'm completely besotted from inside. Besotted it is if we actually take that discipline. If we've got a discipline in our life. I was listening to the Dalai Lama the other day, and he said, one of our first principles is to live within a discipline. And then Sangat Ji, Dharam Dridho is to be firm in a discipline. Paap Tajaya. And we have to sacrifice as well. We have to let go of certain things first as well on this path. It's easy saying, yeah, but I've got that love inside of my heart. But those paap, the sins, we didn't even renounce them. What sins? First, the four utmost sins that are given to us by our Guru, Sangat Ji, is the char bajjar kareta. Is those, Sangat Ji, is those, they refer to them as the cardinal sins. Kesan di be'adab nahi karni, not to cut our case. Sangat Ji, so it's easy to say, but I've got prem with my Guru, But my Guru is saying, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੂੰ ਧਰਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਪੱਕਾ ਹੋ, ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਚ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. They'll say, we'll talk about love in a bit. Don't worry, tu kala na pa. Don't be in such a hurry, because you'll realize that once you start practicing your Guru's way of life, waking early in the morning, reciting Vaheguru Ji's name, and restraining from certain things in your life, from intoxications. Somebody will say, but it's okay, I only have one beer, I don't get drunk. How do you know how it's going to hit you? Our Gurus told us to restrain from intoxicants completely. It's one of the Char Bajjar Kareta. To refrain ourselves from hookah. That within hookah then comes tamaku, comes tobacco as well, and comes all other forms of intoxication as well. So Sangatji, first it's Dharam, is actually then waking up a certain time, sitting there, connecting, reading our Guru's Bani, japping Naam. And then Sangatji, being careful with our diet. How can we, that prem is, how can we have bhakti inside of us when we're not even careful what we eat? Sangatji, I had something a little heavy to eat today. And it was about an hour ago. I had some golgappe to eat because it's my wife's birthday. And I was thinking, how am I going to do katha today? Because there's certain types of food that will have an effect on our mind. And it'll be hard for us to focus and to connect. Sangatji, have a big fry up and sit there and try and connect and jap naam. Try it. Don't just take my word for it. Trial it out. Have a really heavy meal. Try it tomorrow, next day, have a heavy meal, have a fry up. Have some pronte. Sit down, have some heavy aloo wale pronte. And then straight after, about half an hour later, or even 45 minutes, an hour later, try and sit chonkadi maar ke in a nice posture, get comfortable, back straight, and try and sit there and jap naam. Dharam first, Sangatji, is what we're eating, what we're consuming, what's going inside of us, and certain things that we consume nowadays, that they're so slow in actually digesting, we're not even that active. But then we go and eat such things. That could be, Sangatji, meat products, eating such heavy diets, and then but not having an active life. That'll take days and days to actually pass through our system. So all these things have an effect on us, and that's why first thing is Dharam. Pehla Dharam de vich auna pyareo, and then fir tusi beh ke dekhyo, and then the following day then have something light to eat. I'm not talking about your morning bhakti here, because in your morning you shouldn't really eat anything at all unless you've got some sort of medical issues. But try in the day, then have something really light to eat. Have like a vegetable soup or something made at home. Have a dal, not too much mirch in it. Very, very less chili. Not a strong todka to it. Have something light to eat, Sangatji. And then sit down after half an hour, 45 minutes. And then see how it feels. Just have a sukka prashada. Don't butter your prashada, your roti. Don't have no more than one or two. Have something made fresh, a fresh sabji made with it. But with less salt, less mirch, less chilies. And todka and the masale less as well. And then an hour later sit down and you'll see the difference. You'll see the difference in the way you sit, in the way you connect, in the way you feel, in the way that when you jap naam. That's why Bhagat Fariji say to us, rukhi sukhi khaye ka, thanda pani piyo, Frida dekh parai chopdi na tarsai jiyo. They're saying that sometimes we stop getting all these ideas within our mind, this lust within our mind for what somebody else is eating, wanting that, and they're not realizing, but we're on a different path. Sangatji, try and eat a really heavy pizza with thick cheese on it, and try and sit down an hour later, and then try and sit down and then do bhakti then. Sangatji, maaf karna, but today if we look at all of these things have come into our Guru Kars. These things have come into our Gurdware. What we've got? We've got deep fried chips there. We've got pizzas there. we've got all sorts of these heavy foods, we've got these pastas there, we eat that and then we try and go and sit in the kirtan and try and connect. But Satguru Ji Paatsh Ji said to us, kende Baba hor khana khushi khwar jit khade tan peediye man mein challe vikar. Sangat Ji, even though this was not at all the katha I was going to do, but Pehli the gal, the moment something clicked here, when I looked at this actual salok, and I thought, Sadhguru Ji Sache Paatshah, hey Guru Arjun Dev Ji Paatsh Ji, what are you trying to say here? You're saying to us that, you know what, that Dharam heen jathaa basanave. There's many of us today that say we're on this path of love, but we can't even sacrifice the simplest of things. Then what love is there? Pacha कहने लगे, कहते देखो, कहते बाबा होर खाना खुशी ख्वार जित खादे तन पीड़िए मन में चले विकार. The truth is, food does have an effect on us. बंदे कहते की फर्क पैंदा है, कहते एक कुछ नहीं होने लगा. It makes an effect on who makes our food, what somebody is thinking. It has an effect on our food. Sangat Ji, प्यारियों देखो, everything is just one. Everything is energy. All it is, that energy is vibrating at different frequencies, making up different matter to how we perceive it with our eyes or with these senses, because of how we feel things as well. But so we know the truth is that even if somebody is angry inside, the anger is inside of your body, but that anger can be felt in the room. Because there's a certain energy that is coming out of my body. My emotions are creating energy, Sangat Ji. And they've got the ability to actually travel so far out of my actual physical body. Just because this is the boundary that we see, doesn't mean that that's our actual... Just because this physical matter stops here. But so when we're making food, that thought has its own energy that then goes into the food. So then we try and Sangat Ji wait, but this is a part of our Dharam. This is our first steps. And in Gurdwara we eat and such things like that. We eat these chunks of cheese. Sadhguru Ji ne chal kirpa kiti. Mainu ta eho ji chal bimari de diti that I've ended up being allergic to milk. So mainu ta zor de naal hun banna pya vegan. So it's been forced out of me to become vegan, Sangat Ji, even though it wasn't something that I wanted to do myself. And then, Sangat Ji, I've done it in the past. I've been to Gurdwara, had pizzas to eat, and then you try and sit in the Simran. Nahi pyar karke pehla dharam siga. We first have to sacrifice that Bani, Brahma, Ved, Dharam, Dirado ho. Jithe Dharam vich pakke hona, where we're going to embrace certain things in our life. We're going to embrace getting up at a certain time, but then we've got to sacrifice Pap Tajai. We've got to sacrifice things as well. We're going to renounce things as well. Those are the certain things that we eat, the certain things that we drink, the certain words that we speak. If we continue to swear and speak filth out of this mouth, first Sangat Ji Dharam, प्यारियो then फिर प्रेम आप ही आके विच डुल्लूगा. पहला धर्म दा भांडा बनाइए, फिर प्यारो प्रेम दा ओदे विच, फिर उस भांडे विच फिर प्रेम दा आके अमृत विच आके पाऊगा प्यारियो. That's why when we look at that Jat Pahara, Paatshah Ji saying to us, this is the pauri that I was doing vichar with my singri, with my wife this morning. I think that first of all is Jat Pahara. The Jat Sangat Ji, the Pahara is a workspace for the goldsmith. And the first thing we all need is a workspace, meaning we need discipline in our life to walk on this path first. Apa prem kahi janne ha. We keep talking about love, but within love, remember, there is sacrifice. Paatshah Ji saying to us, kende Jat Pahara, kende pehli gal kende tusi jati hovo. Jati doesn't mean to become a celibate, Sangat Ji. Jati here, it's talking about Over here they've translated the pahara to a furnace. Sangat ji, but the actual arth to pahara is the workshop, is the workspace, the work area. We first need to make our area that is of jat, that is of self-control, and that is self-control of everything, self-control of what we're going to look at with these eyes now. Not but ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਸ ਅੰਨੇ ਵਾਈ ਜੋ ਮਰਜੀ ਆਏ ਉਹੀ ਵੇਖ ਲਿਆ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ just blindly you don't care, whatever comes your way you'll just look at that. ਜੋ ਮਰਜੀ ਟੈਲੀ ਤੇ ਊਟ ਪਟੰਗ ਵੇਖੀ ਜਾਣਾ. ਸੁਣਿਆ ਹੋਣਾ ਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ, ਊਟ ਪਟੰਗ means rubbish. Now ਪਹਿਲਾਂ you've got to ਅੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲਿਆਉਣਾ ਆਪਣੇ self control of the eyes. First it's difficult, yes, but nobody said this path is going to be simple. If we want Rabb Ji, if we want Vaheguru Ji, pyareo, prem karna bahut saukha hai. Very easy to just say, love. Yes, I promote love myself a lot. But pyareo, that love is within reading the Guru's Bani. That love is within giving up certain things in our life. That love is within keeping our case. Somebody asked me one day, ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗਾ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, and I've got so much work to do. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਖੁੱਲਾ ਭਾਂਡਾ ਆ, ਇੱਥੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਕੋਈ ਤਾਰੀਫ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ. There is no praise here on myself at all. ਮੈਂ that's why I share first thing ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਮੈਂ ਯਤਨ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੁੰਨਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਤੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਪਾਚ ਕਿਤੇ ਮਾਣ ਨਾ ਆ ਜਾਵੇ, ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਮਾਣ ਤਾਂ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਖੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਰੱਖ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਆ. There's always this fear inside. Satguru Ji Pacha Ji, don't let any pride come in inside, because jatan bahut main kar rahe ho, mitiyo na man ko maan, ye ta marda nahi pyareo, because it doesn't die, this pride. And that's why Sangat Ji, I'm not trying to hide anything from anyone. Ta hi ta main pehla kya main aap gol gappe kha ke aaya. And Sangat Ji, and I felt like a fool, and I thought my devotion, my bhakti is this katha, to place it in the feet of the Sangat. And I scolded myself. Tu murkha kyo kha ke aaya? Why did you eat them? Because they'll dry your mouth out. It'll affect your focus. Par dekho eh jeev swe kal pyare kado siga mera khayal kede hukmnama de vich aaya siga. There was in one of the hukmnamas kathas, it was in the last day or two, and we'll find it and put it in the description, how Pachaji spoke about the das indriya, the panch karm indre, panch jnana indre, and how this tongue just pulls us down. How that you'll see many of those that even claim to be saints, you'll see how that they are so overweight and obese. They're living in obesity as well. Why? Because of the tongue. And because it's got so much of a hold on us, it just drags us in. Pachaji says, never mind a normal householder, even those that have renunciates, the ones that have tried to give up life, Pachaji called them awdoots in that pangati, in that shabad that came up. Sadhguru Ji, Sache Pachaji is saying that this tongue gets a hold of us. In that moment, the tongue got a hold of me, it's the truth. Because for that moment, that self-discipline went out the window. I'm not here saying that I'm there I'm in total prem. That's where I'd like to get to. But Sangat Ji, this is a yatan first, that how important Dharam is. Dharam de vichon, from self-discipline will come then Sangat Ji that prem. That's why Pacha kehne jat pahara thieves sunyar. Kehne only then, but it takes a lot of patience to actually get there. It's not easy to start keeping that self-control, Sangat Ji. It's not easy. The katha is called the deadly battle, Sangat Ji. If you type in the deadly battle of the Hukmnama Kathas, it will come up. That shabad about how these kind of pull us in, these senses. So Sangat Ji, but yes, Jat Pahara, to have that self-discipline, to have Dharam, to wake up at a certain time and do all of these things, put all of these things in place. Sangat Ji, Pachaji kende teeraj sune yaar, kende just like that goldsmith has to have that patience in making that jewelry. In that same way, Sangat Ji, we need to have patience in keep working at it. And with patience, eventually it will start to become easier and easier. and that discipline will become easier, and we'll realize keeping that discipline, it's not dry. Only when there's love inside they will be able to actually do it. Then Sadhguru Ji Paatshah say to us, kende ahran mat ved hathiyar. Sangat Ji, then Sache Paatshah kende ahran. Ahran is the anvil. The anvil is the metal piece that they have to hammer on top. So they have this metal piece, and then on top of that they put the jewelry, and then with a hammer they saw out, and then they make the jewelry, sort out the links or whatever it is they need to do to make that jewelry. Sangat Ji, in that same way, we have to be willing in the first we have to be willing to take a hit. We have to become like that anvil. We have to be willing to be hit first. When the Guru says to us, wear this, don't wear that. Keep this, don't do this. And this is the path of Dharam. Eat this, don't eat that. Drink this, don't drink that. Keep your gaze. You know, all of these things. Get up at this time, speak like this, don't speak like that. Speak these words, don't speak those words. And pyareo, that is that first part. Kende kala Bhagat Dharam to bagair. Kende, how can you call yourself a Sikh without being first having Dharam inside of you? Kehn lage kende ahran mat ved hathiyar. Kende, you have to allow the Guru's wisdom, the hammer of the Guru's wisdom, to be hammered into you. But we have to be willing to take that hit. Satguru Ji will keep saying to us that ke mitha bolli, speak sweetly. It's getting that wisdom's getting hammered into us. Satguru Ji saying kesan di beyadvi na kari, it's getting hammered into us. Sangat Ji, this is it dharam ya. Pyare, dharam de vich hi pyar ya. That prem is within the dharam. Doesn't mean that we do whatever we want, but we say I've got prem in my heart and that's it. It doesn't work like that. Then Sadhguru Ji Paatshah kehne pao khala. And this is that. It's saying we have to keep that fear. That fear, Sangat Ji, is the bellows. The bellows is when they would get just jadon ag machauni hundi si na. And Sangat Ji, when they would have that to actually build up the fire, Sangat Ji, and they had that, then fan as well, and they worked hand in hand together. The bellows and the fan, just like andar sade ag tape, so that fire can start to flame inside of us of what? Of Sangat Ji seva. So we've got pao khala, the fear, remember, is knowing that the Vaheguru Ji is watching each action of mine, the way I'm speaking, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing. I can't escape that. Living in that fear of the Vaheguru Ji's presence, and then agna tap tao, and then I have the fire of what? Of tapasya. Tapasya, Sangat Ji, means to have seva. And then whilst we're doing all of this, whilst we're earning dharam, because what happens is when we first start earning dharam, we start getting up at a certain time. We start doing all of these things. We start keeping our case. We start jumping now. We start reading Gurbani. We start doing all of these things. Sadhguru Ji Paatshah is saying, Kende, you need something. Because what's going to happen now is you're going to get egoistic. Look at me. Look at all of that I'm doing. So this is now you need the fire. Of what? Of tap. Tap, Sangat Ji, means is of hathi seva. Of actually serving with your hands. And be it that cleaning the jode, the shoes, the jode of Gursikhs, of whoever comes to the Guru with those feet, Sangat Ji, and washing the dishes, doing all of these type of hathi seva ma. If somebody calling Sangat over to your house and then preparing langar for them, hathi seva karni una di, pyare una no hathi langar vartauna, and that's the fire that we need. This is all that dharam paach kende panda pao. Kende fear jaake tada panda banna ya kende prem da. Kende by doing all of these things first, kende then you will end up creating that bowl of kende prem. Kende ye sab kuch karke hi prem paida hona ya. Sadhguru Ji Sache Paatshah Ji saying, by doing all of these things, by living in dharam, by serving, doing hathi seva, will you end up then creating then the bowl of prem. That's why Sadhguru Ji Paatshah Ji said, kende bin pa kene ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਨਾ ਪਾਇਆ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਤਿਤ ਢਾਲ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਫੇਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਸ ਨਾਮ ਰੂਪ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਢਲਿਆ ਜਾਏਗਾ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ now ਕਹਿੰਦੇ that name will become nectar inside of you now when you've got all of these things together। ਦਿਨ ਦੇ ਪਾਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਘੜੀਏ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸੱਚੀ ਟਕਸਾਲ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ then ਕਹਿੰਦੇ you will be able to ਕਹਿੰਦੇ then mint that true coin, meaning we'll be able to mint ourselves। What is the coin? The coin is our mind। and ਉੱਤੇ ਤੇ ਘੜਨਾ ਕੀ ਆ, and it will be minted where ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ? It will get minted in the sangat। when we're in the sachi taksal, taksal sangat ji is the mint, but for us the taksal is being in sangat pyareo। when we're in sangat of those guru de pyare, of those rangiya hunya ruha, of those souls that are drenched in love pyareo, in that place we'll become carved। then pyareo jinko nadar karam tinkar, and in that way we'll get the bakshish of Vaheguru Ji, jinko nadar karam tinkar। and then Vaheguru Ji will cast their kirpa upon us, nanak nadri nadar nihal, then we'll become nihal। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਕਥਾ ਹੋ ਗਈ। ਚੱਲ ਮਨ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਸਿੰਘਣੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਇਹ ਹੁਣ ਸੰਗਤ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਕਰ ਹੋ ਗਈ। it was there in the morning। you know what they say ਜੋ ਜੀ ਹੋਏ, whatever you are, whatever is inside of you, what you've been doing, it comes out। ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ। I told you that I did ਵਿਚਾਰ, but I told you I had ਗੋਲ ਗੱਪੇ as well। ਸੋ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ, ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਹਾ ਸਕਾਂਗੇ। ਆਓ ਆਪਾਂ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਅੱਖਰੀ ਅਰਥ ਕਰਕੇ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਮਾਪਤੀ ਵੱਲ ਚੱਲੀਏ। ਸੋ ਪਾਚ ਜੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਾ ਸੰਖੰ ਨਾ ਚੱਕਰੰ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ you know Vaheguru Ji has no sankhang, Sangat ji, because some of the gods, they had these things. That was their sign of being those, like Vishnu, like Krishna ji. They all had something about them to be recognized. They said, but that formless one, you cannot put any sign upon that formless one to be able to say that formless one has this, so that's how you can recognize that one। Because that one, na sankhang, has no conch, jehda bajaunde hunde, that shell conch, na Vaheguru Ji hasn't got that within their hand and isn't sounding that sound for us to say, oh look, there's Vaheguru। nahi, idda nahi pyareo। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਾ ਚੱਕਰੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਾ ਚੱਕਰਿਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ। ਚੱਕਰ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ that was a weapon that Krishna ji actually would use, and they used to have, was that chakkar। and so that chakkar is like basically, so it's like a big kada but with spikes on it, and Krishna ji would spin it around on their finger. They said, but you cannot recognize Vaheguru Ji, they haven't got a chakkar, the formless, there is nothing of that kind। Kende na gada Sangat Ji is a mace। Kende you won't be able to say, oh look, that's Vaheguru Ji with the mace। Kende na syamang Sangat Ji over here, even though it's translated as blue skin, ਪਰ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਿਆਮੰਗ ਦਾ ਅਰਥ blue skin ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਦਾ। we cannot really translate it to blue skin, but Siamang Sangat Ji comes from the word Kasala. Kasala means dark, because Krishna Ji, they were quite of a dark complex. They said, but nobody can say that that's what Vaheguru Ji's complex is, because Vaheguru Ji is beyond any form of colour। ਫਿਰ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆਚਾਰਜ Vaheguru Ji is just Acharya, is just wondrous। It can only be experienced inside. You cannot say that Vaheguru Ji is like this, Vaheguru Ji is like that. There's nothing to say. It's just silence, it's just anand, it's just bliss। Acharya is just, that's it. It's just, wow. Rupang, Vaheguru Ji's form, meaning not a solid form, but Vaheguru Ji is just Acharya। Rahant, Janmang, Vaheguru Ji is beyond Rahant. Janmang is beyond birth। all of these, that they came, actually they took birth, whether it be Krishna Ji, whether it be anybody else, they all actually came here, and people started to say that is the form of God, that is God in that sense. But no, actual Vaheguru Ji isn't born, because Vaheguru Ji is the Jyot, Vaheguru Ji, the jot that actually sits inside of, the truth is that jot is within everyone, but depending that those that have recognized the jot, but then there are those that are actually specially sent here on a mission. There is only very few that are a Satguru that have the ability to actually give somebody naam and to save them. There's many that have recognized the jot inside, but they haven't got that. They haven't been given that job to become a Satguru and to save others. Pyareo net kathant Veda, even the Veds, even all the Vedas, kathant, what are they saying about Vaheguru Ji? They are saying net, na aha ithe takya na ithe takya. They are just saying you are beyond, you are not this, meaning that I thought you was this. I said that about you, then I realized, wait, actually you're not just that, you're that as well. Oh, you're not that, but you're that as well. Because you're just beyond Vaheguru Ji, you're net. They said not even the Veds could actually explain you in complete. Because Vaheguru Ji, you are Uch, you are the greatest, apar, you are limitless, Gobinda. Gobinda, another name for Vaheguru Ji. You are limitless, Basant Sad Hridayam. Where do you reside? Vaheguru Ji, you reside in that place. Basant means reside. Where? Sad Hridayam. Hridayam means heart. You reside within the hearts of the sads of the saints. Vaheguru Ji, you Achut is a name for Vaheguru Ji. Achut, that one that is indestructible, the one that does not come to an end. Hey Vaheguru Ji, you are in the hearts of the saints. But only those that are of great fortune, only they come to realize this bhajant. And then Sadguru Ji Sache Paatshah Ji say, Udyan Basanang Sansarang. That living in this world, for many of people, it's like actually living in an udyan, in a jungle. Udyan Basnang Sansarang. Sansarang is in this meaning world. Udyan means jungle. Basna means staying here. It's like living in a jungle for some people. Why? Because Sanabandi means because their ways in this life have become like what? Like a swan. Swan, Sangaji, means like a dog. ਹੁਣ ਹੋਰ ਕੋਈ ਚੰਗਾ ਭਲਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਕਹਿ ਦੇਵੇ ਨਾ, ਤੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਯਾਰ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਕੁੱਤੇ ਵਾਂਗੂ, ਤਾਂ ਬੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਉਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਸਿਰ ਪਾੜ ਨੂੰ ਕਰੇ. ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, if we turn around and say to somebody that, you know what, we're just living here like we might as well be living in the jungle. We're living like we've just become like dogs. If we turned around to say to someone, yeah, you know what, you're just like a dog, aren't you? I mean, even if we were saying it with our self in it, they'd be ready to rip our head off. Sangat Ji, but that one that we do matha take to, those that have so much pride inside of them, and including people like me, and one thing that we forget, that Guru that is very sweet, we don't understand Guru's sweetness. Guru's sweetness, the Guru even says things like, you're no different to a dog. And when we do matha day, we actually accept those words from the Guru. We're actually saying, yes, Maharaj, Maharaj, that's so true in what you're saying to me. How am I like a dog? Because I've got caught up in greed. In that way, I'm a dog. And then Sache Paatshah Ji say, the next word they use is Syal. Sangat Ji, a Syal is a jackal, meaning a wild dog. We've just become like these wild dogs. Not so first Swan, normal dog, but then Maharaj talks about a wild dog. A wild dog, Sangat Ji, ਭਾਵ ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਬਸ ਟੁੱਟ ਕੇ ਪਈ ਜਾਣਾ, ਭੌਂਕੀ ਜਾਣਾ, ਹਰ ਵੇਲੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਵੱਢ ਦਿੱਤਾ. Meaning that we're always constantly biting at people, speaking so raw and harsh to them, ripping them apart with our words. You know, not caring about anyone, walking all over them, ripping other people's lives apart, tearing other people apart. We become like these jackals. And then Sache Paatshah ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਖਰਾ ਹੈ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ you become like, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ you're just living like a donkey. Donkey, what do they mean? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਖੋਤੇ ਦੀ ਨਿਆਈ ਤੇਰੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਬਣ ਗਈ ਆ. What do they mean by a donkey? ਖੋਤਾ ਕੀ ਕਰਦਾ, ਉਹ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਿੱਠ ਉੱਪਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਦੇਖੋ ਭਾਰ ਲੱਦ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਆ. ਉਹਦੇ ਪਿੱਠ ਉੱਪਰ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਚੰਦਨ ਰੱਖੀ ਹੋਵੇ, ਪਰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਚੰਦਨ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਆ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਪਤਾ. ਉਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਚੰਦਨ ਹੋਵੇ, ਗੋਆ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹ ਲਈ ਸਾਰਾ ਇੱਕ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਆ ਪਿਆਰ. Where for a donkey, they could have even sandalwood upon their back, which is it's something that is so valuable. In that way, Sangat Ji, we sometimes become like those donkeys. And Sangat Ji, I'm just translating my Guru's words. Please don't think that I'm saying this to anyone. I have absolute no right. But my Guru absolutely does. Because my Guru comes from a very sweet place. A Guru is lifting us up, by the way. The Guru isn't throwing us down. A Guru never puts anyone down. Our Guru is saying, Guru ta sanu hath dinde pਏ ਨੇ. Guru is giving us the arm, saying, aap beta main tenu uthala. They're saying, oh my child, let me lift you up. Karke Guru da hirda hai hi pyareo ਦਇਆ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਭਰਿਆ ਪਿਆ. And that's why the Guru can call us a dog, because the way the Guru calls us a dog, the Guru is calling us a dog from compassion. Kende, you become like a donkey. You've accumulated such valuable knowledge about how to live, but you're still not going about and changing. ਫੇਰ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੂੰ ਕਰਦਾ ਪਿਆ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਖੋਤੀ ਦੀ ਨਿਆਈ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਆ, ਬਸ ਲੱਦੀ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਭਾਰ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆਹ ਗਿਆਨ ਦਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਿਰ ਤੇ, ਪਰ ਤੁਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੂੰ ਫੇਰ. But you're still not acting upon it. That's what it means to become a donkey, ਪਿਆਰਿਓ. ਫੇਰ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਿਖਮ ਸਥਾਨ ਮਨ ਮੋਹ ਮਦਰੰਗ. ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, like I say sometimes, ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਨਾ ਕਈ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਜੇ ਇਹੋ ਜੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਕਹਾਵਤਾਂ, ਤਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ, ਉਹ ਗੱਲ ਜੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਦੀ. So some things are said so well in Punjabi, but they just can't do the justice when you put them into English, and it's translated here in this difficult place. And I'll translate it in Punjabi first. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬੇਖਮ ਸਥਾਨ ਮਨ ਮੋਹ ਮਦਰੰਗ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬੜਾ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਯਾਰ ਬੜਾ ਕਸੂਤਾ ਫਸ ਗਿਆ ਬੰਦਾ. And what they say, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬੜਾ ਫਸ ਗਿਆ ਬੰਦਾ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ look where they've got stuck. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ they've got themselves in such an awkward situation, awkward place they've ended up in. That's what this means. So not that is this in this difficult place. It's talking about look where you've ended up. So it's saying here, become a satan. Become means difficult. Satan means place. Man, your mind has ended up where? Moh madirang. You've ended up becoming madirang. You've ended up becoming drunk. You've ended up becoming intoxicated in what? In moh, in attachment. Maha asad panch taskara. You know what? It's such a difficult path, because you've got this maha asad. Asad meaning, is hadde nahi jande. Sade means they're just so difficult to control because they are maha. They are so great that asad they have become now out of control, that I just can't get a grip of who. Pant taskare. Taskare means chor. Taskare are the worst type of chor, Sangat Ji. ਤਸਕਰੀ ਇੱਕ ਕਰਕੇ ਦੋ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਚੋਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ. There's two type of thieves. There's those type of thieves, ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, that ਉਹ ਨਾ ਇੱਕ ਤਿੰਨ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ. So because I wasn't going to talk about it, but I'll quickly go through it. There's three type of thieves. ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, there's those type of thieves to your face. You can see them coming, they come at you and they'll tell you somebody gets mugged. When I was young, I grew up in the heart of Handsworth. I got mugged many times. And you get mugged and it's just in your face. They'll tell you, give me your watch, give me your money, give me your phone. Back in them days, we didn't have phones, it was watches. You used to have this little digital watch, you got it robbed about 3 times. And they'd say, give me your watch. So it's in your face. There's those type. Maharaj said this, so they're not the worst type, Maharaj said. And then there's those type of chor, there's those type of thieves that wait until somebody falls asleep and they sneak into your home, or they wait till you've gone out, so they sneak behind your back and steal everything. But then there's the taskara. The taskara are crazy, Sangat Ji. You know what type of thief a taskar is? A taskar is, they could be in your face and you haven't got a clue that they're the actual thief. And they've made good friends with you. and you don't even realize that they're actually robbing from you. You thought it was a friend from birth that you've gone into partnership with. Little did you know, I know actually a case like this. Partnerships they went into business together, in property business, and it took them years to know, because it was a multi-million pound business, that one of the partners was just slowly just removing money. Taskar are those types that they seem to be your friends and you don't even know what they're doing to you. They're robbing you, and it takes you a while to clock on. Kande panch taskar hai. So Sangat ji, then panch kande heat mo. Kande then I've gotten. Kande then there's this more, this attachment. Heat Sangat ji means when you, even though literally heat would be translated to love, but it's that false sense of love when you become emotionally attached to someone. And then more, Sangaji, is that attachment, and then so these heat and more would go together. It's like that emotional attachment you have towards somebody. When you feel dependent on somebody else, then having, and then when you've got attachment, remember I always say that attachment and fear come together. Wherever there's attachment, there'll be fear there, because there's that fear of losing that something and you're trying to hold on to it. That more param, doubt, paramanang are now wandering around, lost. Paramanang is lost in the doubt. Ahang. Where is all this coming from? From ahang, from ego. And then now, because I've got the fans, I've got the noose of ego around my neck now. That's what's killing me. It's the ego that's killing me. Tikhan means sharp. Kathine means difficult. Kathine. And then we've got, where am I? Oh, that's the end of that pangati. So Sangaji, so what this is saying is, so it's saying that ahang fans tikhan kathine, meaning that this ego, it's like this noose of death around my neck, but it's cutting us. It's so sharp, cutting our spiritual journey of experiencing Ananda bliss. Kathina, it's so raw in the way what it does to me. Kathina here will be actually translated to strong, Sangatji. And then I'm not going to go into ego, any of the bunch order, because we've already covered them. So if anyone hasn't watched those, they can go back to those videos. And then Paatji say to us, Kende Pavak to Asad Korang. Kende Pavak Sangatji means fire. And Kende look how many things that are destroying us. Kende we're burning in the fire of desires. Kende to means the water, meaning the ocean. Kende, and then the things that we've got desires for is a huge ocean, meaning so many different things. First we're desiring this, we get that, then we desire the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Kende asad, kende it just doesn't come to an end. Asad here means that it's so difficult to actually control these desires because they're so vast and they just don't come to an end. Kende korang means that they're so deep. This ocean of desires is so deep for so many different layers of it and so many different things. It just doesn't come to an end. It seems so difficult to get to the tir. Tir means kanda, to the edge. Agam, I just can't reach the end, meaning I can't get out of this ocean of desires. How am I meant to get across and out of this? Patji saying, meditate in Sad Sangat, in the company of saints, Gopal, upon that Vaheguru Ji, the one that actually takes care of us. Har Charana Sharana Udarana Kripa, only with the grace of Vaheguru Ji, Udarana, will we be saved when we come into the Charan, into the lotus feet, into the Sharan, into the sanctuary of Vaheguru Ji, when we meditate on that Vaheguru Ji in the Sangat of the saints. So Sangat Ji itniyan bੇਨਤੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਰ ਅਨੇਕਾਂ ਹੀ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਹਨ ਅਣਜਾਣ ਬੱਚਾ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਬਖਸ਼ ਦੇਣਾ ਸੋ ਆਓ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ ਆਪਾਂ ਬੁਲਾਈਏ ਫਤਿਹ ਗੱਜ ਵੱਜ ਕੇ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ